Jai Hind, Jai Bharat, and welcome to Dev Talks. This is Adi. Today, with Lieutenant General Dushyant Singh, I'm asking a big question. I think the biggest question that needs to be asked about the Pakistani army. Of course, a lot of questions are being asked about whether the Pakistani army will be able to handle Pakistan. I am taking it a little step forward to the root cause of the problem of Pakistan, which is Afghanistan. Will the Pakistani army or has the Pakistani army lost its game in Afghanistan? What's the future of the great game between Pakistan and Afghanistan? Sir, good evening and welcome to the show, sir.
Good evening, Adi, and thank you very much again. Good to be back.
Thank you, sir. Sir, we are asking a very twisted question, actually, if I may. This is something that a lot of people will say, are Pakistani army, plainly speaking, on the top of it has lost. They've not had any control. But let's deep dive into it to understand actually hua kya, sir? What is the historical aspect? What is the current aspect, and what do you see as the future?
Uh, Adi, I'll before we go to the question proper of today, which is as to what is the plan of Pakistani army, assuming that they are the ones who call the shots in Pakistan, right? I think there is no doubt in that. So before that, we would like to understand what kind of a problem they are facing, and the roots of the problems are always in history. So let's see as to how this region looked like right from 500 BC downward. I should have gone to Harappa period, but let's start with the 500 BC onwards. So can I have the first map which you can see? Yes. So if you see this map, one could say that this, by and large, was the knowledge of the earth as far as the people of that period were concerned. People were not really aware of Americas. So the world was between Europe to Asia. So if you look at this map, you will find the central belt of our Earth planet at that point in time was the trade hub, was the invasion hub, was the area where empires were coming up, going down, disappearing, new empires coming up, new kings coming up. The area was always in some form of turmoil or the other, right? So if you look at the Afghanistan proper, you see the area of Gandhar, Bactria, these were the old names, Arcosia. These were the old name of places in Afghanistan. Now, this particular region was in somewhere around 500 BC, was under the Archimedes empire. You can say Persia or Iran of today. Darius was one of the most famous kings of this particular region. Till very close to the 300 BC, he ruled over this particular region. Sometimes even extending his reign beyond Gandhar. I'll speak about Gandhar a little later. Gandhar is what Kandhar today you have, right? So the Alexander the Great, as people know, in 300, started his conquest of the world, so-called world, which everybody knew. So he started from Greek and went right up to the Indus River. In the process, he defeated Darius. He got control over this particular region of Afghanistan. But unfortunately, as you are aware, he stayed there for about just 10 odd, 10 odd years was his rule, and he died on his way back in Babylon. But while his rule was very short of this particular region, what he did was that he left behind Greeks all over.
Hmm.
So a predominant Greek culture was prevailing in this part of the region. And that is why if you go further in history, you would find some more Greek small empires coming up. Okay, as we go ahead in this presentation. So, with this kind of a invasion taking place, first the Persian influence, then you had the Greek influence, And thereafter, there was an influence already existing of Gandhar Empire, which was
mm,
even before the Persians, right? Now, Empire controlled almost major portions of what today we call as Afghanistan and extended up to India. I mean, well within India. And this particular empire remained in some form or the other existing despite so many people coming, attacking it, etc., etc. As we go ahead. Okay. So that was a lasting cultural influence of Gandhar, which was basically the influence of Buddhism and Hinduism. The Hinduism later on took over the culture, religious influence or the cultural influence in the region later on during the Kushan and Kidari period, etc. So let's go to the next slide. Yeah, this was the route of Alexander. Look at the expanse. Look at his, the big dream of starting from one end of the earth almost, because nobody knew about America. America got discovered much later, and right up to the banks of River Indus. So his footprints of this culture came into Afghanistan in a big way.
mm,
There was an existing culture, Persian culture or Zoroastrian culture. There was an existing culture of Gandhar Empire, now called Kandhar. You would remember in Mahabharat, Gandhari as one of the characters. It's actually from this particular region. So there has been a huge influence of India in this part of the. So right, traditionally, this region has had a significant Indian influence even during BC. If you go to the next one, yeah. So, if this was the kind of expanse in which the humanity was moving from left to right and right to left, the trade routes developed along these routes, once along the sea and also along the land. So, what happens when traders go from one place to the other? They take the culture, they take the influence of each other, and go through this treacherous region of, now we call it as Afghanistan, which has the Hindu Kush, Pamir knots. These are very, very difficult terrain to actually traverse, as also fight.
mm,
So, if I were to say that this region was the melting pot of cultures, with the tribals already thrown into the area, as we call it as aboriginals, the guys who were originally residents of this particular region, they were very small in numbers. Outsiders came in larger numbers. Okay. So the you see the kind of, it was kind of a choraha. Let me put it in Hindi. It was a roundabout. Afghanistan was a roundabout around which people, empires came and went away. Then once the Alexander's influence waned away, then you had the Mauryan Empire coming right up to and beyond Indus, extending up to the eastern portions of Gandhar. That is when the Buddhist influence started coming in.
mm,
Just show the next slide. Then this was the influence of the they call it as the Kushan Empire. Okay, so the Kushan Empire kind of built on both Buddhism as well as primarily Buddhism, and continued deep into India. See its influence going right up to, and their system was, in Mauryan Empire they used to call it as Janpadas.
mm,
So they had developed a system whereby you would pay some royalty and they allow you to govern your. Like for example, Ashoka was initially the governor of Takshila. Later on, he came and took over the Mauryan Empire in. in Patliputra.
It was
So there was,
independent sort of a governance
yes,
system.
but then they owed their alliance
Hmm.
to the central authority, lose central authority. I won't say that it was a very strong centralized force like what we see today, in the case, let's say, India or any other country, which has a central power which controls over the entire region. These were loosely connected states with the reps of the central authority being there. So you found the Kushans, coming into India and the other part of the regions of Afghanistan. Then a very strange thing happened. Next, yeah, you had these, the Greeks who had been left behind during the Alexander's time. This happens much later. So you started having in this particular region the Indo-Greek kingdoms coming up. Their influence was not that deep into India, but they were primarily restricted to the region of Afghanistan, some portions of Tajikistan, some portions of
Iran.
northwest Pakistan, Iran. So these were the regions which were normally under their control. But there was a huge Indian influence here. What I'm trying to get at is that this region was always under turmoil with one empire fighting over the other empire, and the locals finally used to defeat. So Indo-Greeks had become a local there, almost kind of
Hmm.
locals there. They had mixed up. They had started marrying into the. Initially, they didn't marry. Initially, the Greeks retained their separate status, something like what the some of the people do it in our country, like Parsis and all. So these people mixed around and then became almost a local persons of that particular area. Okay, so you had the influence of a different kind coming in during the reign of. Then you had the white Huns coming in. Now some people say, I don't know, I may not be wrong, I may be wrong, but some people say that white Huns were actually the Rajputs of today, and they came well deep into our territory, established kingdoms, and they remained here only even after their influence waned. Okay, so white Huns were the ones who started rebelling and revolting against the existing kingdom which was there. Gandhar was under attack by them. So you had the white Huns influence here, and in all this, the local tribesmen were also kind of involved either with this side or that side. Okay, then what happened was the era of Islamic invasion started. That started from the 700 AD and then continued for almost, it took them 200 years to Islamicize this area. That is when the Islamic influence started building into this region. That is when the
500.
tribal
Hmm.
that is when the tribals also created a loya jirga, what you call it as national council in this particular region. So therefore, a typically different kind of a influence started of a different religion, new religion, with different set of behaviors and attitudes. The Buddhist temples were destroyed, Buddhist stupas were destroyed. A lot of Buddhists shifted from here to China and the
Yeah.
eastern part of eastern part of uh, the region towards China and beyond. In between, in the 13th century, you had the Mongols coming in and invading this region and having a control over it for quite some time, with the king of Genghis Khan being left behind to rule this part of the world. So you had the Mongol influence also there for a short while. So you're getting the point, the kind of influence which this particular region was getting. But till the Islamist came, everything was being assimilated into some kind of a Hinduist culture,
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Hindu culture. So it was kind of, if you come, you get into our culture, you marry with us, you get converted, you get baptized, you're a Hindu, right? That kind of a thing was taking place. But with Islam invasion in the area, things started happening the other way around. And by 1300, Genghis Khan came. Thereafter, you had Tamur coming into this particular region. Then you had the Mughals coming into this particular region, Babur, etc. Babur established his kingdom here for about a very short period of 10 years. From there, he launched his operations towards India. And it is in this period that people started looking at India as some kind of a place to go loot and come back. But the Mughals had different idea, and Mughals actually went into India to take over the Sultanate of Delhi. Right? What happened was Mughals were very smart. Mughals fought wars with the local satraps here, of this particular region, and they realized it is very difficult to defeat them. So the great game is going not from the UK, US, UK, Russia, the first great game. No, I would call that the great game is going on right from 500 BC onwards. The Persians, the Alexander, then you had Greco-Roman, White Huns, Indo-Greeks, then Greek Bactrian kingdom. So there has been this region has always had great game going on in some form or the other. And the local people here have used the terrain, have used their hardiness to best of their abilities to keep these invaders from not disturbing their core culture.
Hmm.
Pastunwali, it's a core culture. Nuristan, Nuristani, it's the core culture of that people of that particular region. Nuristanis were untouched for very late in history. Very, I mean, it was during the British time that the roads, etc., started being built in Nuristan, that they got affected by external culture. So what I'm trying to get at is that Mughals, what they did was they bought these satraps. It's the other way around. They bought peace with them.
Hmm.
So what the Mughals did was they said, you leave the urban centers and the roads to us. In the rest of the region of Afghanistan, northwest Pakistan, you continue to do what you want to do, you live the way you want to do, we will not interfere into your basic routine and systems, your form of rule which you do on your local rule. They did not touch them. So I would say Mughals were the ones who could in some form or the other manage. And from here I will take on what Munir can do. I'm why I'm leading to is that the history has answers. What happened after the Mughals was the British came in. British got agitated because of the communist influence which was taking place in Afghanistan due to the Russian influence increasing in this part of the region. They started having Anglo-Afghan wars. They had three wars, and each of the wars they lost, which we now refer to as the Great Game One. Okay, but I by now I have counted about five great games, which have already taken place in this particular region. Got it? So the great games have been a habit with this region.
Yeah.
The final statement is one of the authors of a book of this particular region has written. I'm forgetting his name. He said it is easy to get into Afghanistan, but very difficult to get out of Afghanistan. It's easy to capture them, but it's not easy to control them. It's not easy to rule over them. And history is repeatedly telling. And that is why you find the Chinese adopting the Mughal route. Buy money. I am not going to put my foot down into Afghanistan. And the Indians have done it based on their own old experience of Mauryan era, that it is better to give the money than put your boots on ground there. So that brings me to the next slide, which is, this is again one of the empires. Like I said, Han Empire. This is the Rajput Empire, which finally, I mean, some people call that the Rajputs came out from this, and their influence goes right up to Gujarat, and Gujarat in the south, and up to almost Himachal, etc., in the north. So that's the kind of influence the Rajput state was. Rajputs were, I believe, assimilated into Hinduism by the Brahmins, because they felt that keeping such strong people who can fight would help the country, or would help the region in remaining stable and peaceful. So somewhere down the line, I think the Indus culture, the Hindu culture, was very smart also, that they tried to use minimum of force, maximum of other means to ensure that
Influence.
uh, the region remains stable. And that is why you have that famous quote, that मिट गए जहां से यूनान और रोमा, हस्ती है
Hmm.
कुछ अपनी कि मिटती नहीं जहां से. It's not come just like that. This couplet has not just come out of the blue. It has come out of history, where India remains what it is, almost intact. If you were to just take out Pakistan from this entire quagmire, you would find that India remains what it has been till Indus. Okay, so what is the option for us, for Mr. or General Munir, who is now saddled with a problem on which we have had so many videos discussed. I have had two, three videos. Jan Hasnan has had two, three videos. You have had Rajiv talking about Pakistani problems. So those problems have been discussed threadbare, and will not go over these problems. Today we will focus specifically, as you said, on the main question, and thereafter we will see if we can take on some questions, etc. So can we move on to our next slide? Here it is. See, before we say that what are the plans of Pak Army Chief, let us see what are the challenges which he is facing. First and the foremost, and there is no doubt in this, is that the domestic politics and internal instability. It is his topmost challenge.
Hmm.
Whom should he back? Should he back Imran? Should he back Shahbaz? Should he prop up a third one, Zardari? Or should he just remain neutral, let these guys fight, and ultimately let something come out of the churning to decide what is going to be the political outcome of this particular region, or of Pakistan? Now, this is a big question in front of Munir. What was Bajwa doing in this particular issue? Bajwa was trying to remain neutral. He was using backdoor diplomacy to control or to normalize situation with the region, with the other countries in the region, whether it was Afghanistan, whether it was China, whether it was India, going more than halfway down to ensure that no external problems occur to Pakistan, which leads to further problems for Pakistan. So I feel that somewhere he was acting little smart.
Hmm.
Will Mourinho follow the same routine? Given the current uh, situation and the current halat of Pakistan, I don't think he has any better option than what Bajwa was doing.
I was just about to say, does he have a choice?
That's right. But the rider to this is, caveat to this is, that Munir, who by hearted the Quran and has a distinct anti-India stance, and a hawkish reputation, how long will he be able to sustain the Bajwa policy? One. Two, any new commander who comes wants to show something to the public that he is doing something more than the
Previous guy.
predecessor
Hmm.
to ensure that the situation is better. So the factor of unpredictability with Munir remains on this particular count. Will he forcibly install a puppet regime? Could be one, thing which could happen. After all, you have Bilawal Bhutto also there. There are number of actors who are very keen to take on Pakistan. At least it will be written against their name. They were prime minister or
Prime
president or
Minister of
whatever.
Pakistan. Hmm.
Absolutely. But Imran Khan is gone a little too big for his liking of Munir. And Imran and Munir have never seen eye to eye. Reasons are known to everyone. I mean, he wanted Faz to be the chief, and the rivalry between Imran and Munir is quite well known.
There's an older one now. So Munir was when he was the ISI
Yes,
chief. He went and told
exactly.
Imran Khan कि भाई तेरी बीवी ये पैसे ले रही है जरा रोक ले उसको.
बिल्कुल. So उस सिचुएशन से will Munir kind of have a reproach with Imran Khan, or give some other signal, or indulge in some other activity to control Imran Khan and get some kind of a political stability into Pakistan's domestic policy? That's the challenge number one. What's the challenge number two? And this is what I had spoken to you last time. How does, I believe, what the Pakistan establishment does is that interlocution of external policies specifically is left to the army chief.
Hmm.
That's why you found that Bajwa towards the end of tenure went to the US to repair the damage done by Imran Khan when he had gone running to Russia on the eve of Russia-Ukraine war, instead of making up with the Americans. So, and thereafter that entire orchestration took place to remove Imran Khan and try to appease the Americans that yes, we are with you. How does Pak Army Chief Munir Bhai Saab handle the two big brothers, strategic allies, US and China? That's, to my mind, a very big challenge for Munir. If he's able to handle these uh, two powers, his considerable problems of Pakistan may get resolved. As of now, China has almost given up on CPEC. The loan which it has given now is peanuts. 700 million is hardly anything. Some people are saying it is 500 million. It will not even last them 3 days. Then you have the Chinese making a beeline for Afghanistan directly. Will the Chinese demand Baltistan to open a route directly to Afghanistan for exploiting that particular region? What will happen if this is done to get Chinese help to the American stand? Will the Americans accept such a deal? How does he balance the US China interest in this particular region of Afghanistan? Is something which Munir has to really work hard on. Should he be doing some informal talking? Do they have any options in which they retain their sovereignty also, as well as get the desired help from China and America? The Americans want bases to have a overseeing over Afghanistan. Will they quietly do that? Chinese want
Good.
some port, Chinese want some ports to be leased to them. Will the Pakistanis do it? So there are big ifs and buts. The IMF has said that we will release the tranche only when you give us the assurance or give us evidence that the countries, other countries from which you have taken loan, like China, etc., they have China, India, they have waived off or rolled over your loan for at least and for how many how many years or how many months has the loan been rolled over? Because if they've not rolled over the loans, the money which the
Hmm.
IMF is going to give will go back to paying the interest of these guys. So IMF is holding on to the Pakistanis have announced some kind of austerity measures, but in the same breath, the US, sorry, the Pak army today has gone on record to state that they are facing food shortages within the army. So if they're facing food shortages, if they have oil reserves in the country for just 3 days, how can they undertake a war? So Munir has his hands full, and he can only get over this if he's able to somehow balance the interest of US and China. With China and the US adopting more and more confrontationist attitude, especially over Taiwan and the South China Sea and the East China Sea in the past few years, it is becoming more and more difficult for them to, and so many other policies which the Americans have taken as far as China is concerned, in terms of shifting
Shifting.
manufacturing of various key items from China to other places, etc. What chance does he have to balance the two? And it can only happen if he gives some very critical things to the Americans, and this we have discussed in the past, we will not go over it. Okay, the next thing is the nuclear angle. The other day Biden was saying that the Pakistan is the most dangerous place because the nuclear arsenals are in a place which is least cohesive and in danger of either
Hmm.
an accidental or inadvertent uh, mis- misuse, or somebody trying to at least export it
Appropriate.
export it to countries which may not be having this kind of a asset. There are many countries aspiring to become the Islamic uh, leaders. There are three of them which we all know: Saudi Arabia, Erdogan, and
Iran and
you
Turkey. Turkey.
have Turkey. Now they have changed the name also. So there's a good trend of going back to history. That's why I said history teaches you. So you so 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 you have very competing people looking for some kind of leverage, and what best leverage but to have a nuclear arsenal with you, capability. So that is the next thing which he has to manage. I believe Bajwa was doing a good job of it. He had assured the US that it will be ensured that the nuclear, although see, the nuclear button is not in his hand technically. Technically the nuclear button is in the hands of the prime minister, but the fact of the matter is it is based on his orders, and nobody else can actually deny that fact. Okay, as per the existing procedure, the nuclear button is not with him, but
I thought
influence
it
of,
was
no,
officially
uh,
with the army chief.
no, it's not with him, but you can say he's a quasi or a proxy controller.
Acha, okay.
He's a proxy control. I mean, he's got a
That's
proxy to control. He's got a proxy to control, and he's the principal. The proxy is prime minister.
I didn't
Okay.
know that.
So,
Thank you for that.
yeah, yeah. So something like this arrangement is there. So if Munir is able to convince the Americans that okay, the nuclear assets are safe and it will not be misused, it will not be reappropriated, or it will not go to any other unwanted country to have this thing. Maybe the US may give them a little bit of help. But if anything they see contrary to this, there are chances that US may intervene. And the US has done things in the past in Pakistan, you know it. It can do it again. Then the next big problem which he has, challenge which he has, is the Afghanistan and the counter-terrorism. What does he do? Afghanistan stands fast on Durand line, Taliban or no Taliban, whether it was the Northern Alliance or whether it is Taliban, the stance on
Same.
Durand line remains. Confrontation with Pakistan remains on this. Talks with TTP are in limbo. Pakistani government had sent its representatives to talk with Afghan Taliban. The outcome has not been announced. I don't think they have had any progress on that count. So, what are the options for Munir in such a situation where the TTP is striking them at will? And I'm not even talking about Baluchistan. I'm not even talking about Gilgit
Yeah, yeah,
Baltistan. I'm
yeah, yeah, yeah.
not even talking of POK. These are problems by themselves. Thank God for minor mercies that the Sindh region is keeping quiet as of now. Although it's one of the leaders keeps talking from England, but at least within the country there is no major voice which is coming up. With Bilawal probably having a good hold over that particular region. What I'm trying to say is that the Pakistani chief possibly has only the gray zone to play around to control Taliban. But who is the expert in gray zone here? Who's the one who taught gray zone war to Afghanistan Taliban? Pakistan. And now Afghanistan Taliban is an expert in gray zone itself. So what has it done? It has given basis to TTP in its own territory. So Pakistan has given probably basis. People are talking about it, that it has given basis to ISKP, ISIS Khorasan, to counter the Talibanis.
Yeah, yeah.
Will this give them a lasting solution? I have my doubts. Any military solution or any confrontation in the gray zone kind of continues to fester on. It'll keep chugging along. This problem of the uh, terrorism will keep going on, and who knows better than India?
It's a living, breathing organism, so it will also develop.
And it may change form. It will be dynamic in nature. There may be more groups which may come in. For all the ETIM may join this faction. Then you have uh, Baluchistan, POK, Gilgit, and Baltistan. How does it deal with them? Baluchis are almost, you can say, near independent. The writ doesn't lie there. The Chinese are actually given up on that particular region.
Yeah.
And the Pakistani army is almost like non existent. The new leadership of Baluchistan, as I keep telling, is a different leadership. It's no more the traditional insurgency fighting group of people. These are the people who are more energetic. They are more dynamic. They are more experimental. They are finding new ways to strike and of course the US weapons are all coming handy to these groups. How do they control the US weapons when they are in the hands of Afghan Taliban, which is not controlling, or which is not listening to their talks and deliberations? Then you have economic challenges, which is which is uh, which is actually so difficult that people are now talking, can it even meet the kind of situation, kind of approach with the at least the Sri Lankans have been able to do. See, the Sri Lankans had a unicorn problem.
Yeah.
These guys have multi-corn problems. I'm using a new word, they have the they have terrorism going on their hands. They have Islamic fundamentalism, which is their radicalism, is having a huge impact in entire Pakistan, and especially the Western Pakistan is totally Islamicized and radical Islamic, the
Hmm.
Salafi variety. Then you have the economy going nowhere. Then you have the Afghan problem coming on to you. All these things were not there with the Sri Lankans, and that is why they stabilized early. So Pakistan's last and the most important problem, which Munir Bhai Sahab has to, Jan Munir has to really help the government of the day in overcoming, is this. So coming on to my last bit, we can close the presentation because I have not written down the options for Munir, but I have kind of prioritized. I've said that, look, as far as economy is concerned, it's a matter of diplomacy. It's a matter of showing the correct approach to the IMF, balancing the US China uh, role playing as far as Pakistan is concerned. Their interests have to be balanced here. This requires a little bit of fine, uh, fine tightrope walking, which Pakistan should be able to manage it with proper orchestration. Where they are going to face problems are, and that is the most important thing, is A in terrorism, and B in economy, and C is in internal stability,
Cohesion. Hmm.
cohesion. If they are able to handle these three things first, internal cohesion, terrorism, and the economy can still be, people can be told, people can be requested, austerity measures can take place, gold can be kept in some kind of reserves, temporary temporary truce can be bought. But what do they do with India? What do they do with Afghanistan? And what do they do with the terrorism? All these three factors are making their security situation very critical.
Yeah.
So options for this, in my view, as far as Afghanistan is concerned, one of the options could be that they work in the gray zone and play ISKP against Taliban, actively support them.
But they'll get hammered by that, no, sir?
No, no, they are in the they will not be themselves doing anything. They just, I mean, what they do with India, they start doing that with the ISKP into Afghanistan. An element of deniability would always be there. These guys are experts. They will give them weapons with no marking or a Chinese marking. So they are quite capable of doing these kind of things. They have done it in the past, and they are past masters. Their people are trained into adopting such a tactics. So that is one option. I'm not saying that they're going to do it, but this is one option to get Taliban to listen to them. Okay, get them onto some kind of a negotiation. That is one option. The second option which they could adopt for their Western friendly neighbors whom they were controlling for so long, and this is something, it's going to be a bombshell which I'm going to tell you. Revive Amrullah Saleh.
Hmm.
give the same medicine to Taliban in case if they are not listening to what the Pakistanis want. How much can it be done? Is it possible? Maybe possible. After all, Hamid Karzai used to live in Pakistan when Taliban government was there. So Pakistanis have this ability, to get all the guys somehow with them connected with them. Amrullah Saleh is still there. Uh,
Tajikistan.
Masood's son is still there, and Ghani is in a country where Pakistan has enough influence. Play them up. That's the second option for the western border or western friendly neighbors. The third option, the third option, and this to me looks more like and maybe very much doable. Depose the Doha lobby of Afghan Taliban. Get Haqqani to become the president of.
Which is what I see happening right now. So,
Depose Doha faction. Get Haqqani. Make him the president with the condition that you will stop giving any kind of support to TTP. If they come in your area, you will control both the Baluchis as well as the TTP
anybody else?
and anybody else who is trying to use your land for terrorist activities in Pakistan. To my mind, this seems to be the most workable option. But yes, the second one, which I said, in desperate times, people do desperate things, may also be adopted. Or it could be a exploration of all these mix of all these three options, and see that somehow Afghan Taliban bends under pressure. See, diplomacy has failed till now, and Afghan Taliban has no pressure on itself because nobody has recognized it. It is still going on. It's Afghani currency is doing better than Pakistan. It has the drug money to support itself. It is by and large trying to rope in as much as possible from the Chinese in terms of aid. It's got the Chinese running to them for whatever, and the Chinese, they like to enter high risk areas, whether it is Africa, whether it is any part of the world. They are the first ones where the risks are more, the gains are also more. So Afghanis are, I think, leveraging their Chinese influence better than the Pakistanis in the current scenario. So these are the options as far as I am concerned for their western borders. For
So,
the
lot of people in the comments are concerned. Sir, क्यों अच्छी चीजें बता रहे हो पाकिस्तान को आप?
no, no, since you said no, they see, I am looking at how can a nation try to survive. So the answer lies in how you should do so that they do not survive. Unless you analyze their courses of action, see
You can't counter them.
you can't counter them. So you must understand how they are thinking. I'm not looking at how we are thinking. I'm looking at how as a Pakistani I would look at this situation and what are the options for me as a Pakistani. So when I'm analyzing a person, go into his boots and then see what all he can do. Okay.
That's how you plan against an enemy. Guys,
Now,
that's an Indian Army general for you.
so now you look at the Indian challenge. After all, it has a very sensitive border with India. What would it do? What are the options for it? Continue with its current policy. That is one of the options.
Keep your influence in Afghanistan. Ensure that there is
You
instability in that area.
No, I'm saying with the Indians.
Hmm.
I'm saying as far as Pakistan is concerned, how does it manage the eastern border? So it will like to continue in Kashmir the way they are doing it.
Don't open
keeping
any
things,
ceasefire.
keeping things just below absolute normalcy, so that the Indian Army remains engaged into looking after its western borders, that is our western borders, so that they don't have to bother about this side at least. The second thing could be backdoor diplomacy, track to channels, promise the Indians that we will not do ceasefire violation, promise the Indians that we will put a curb on cross border infiltration. And I believe Bajwa was doing this. If you look at the at least the cross border things, there
Reduced.
were there was some kind of reduction. I don't say that we should take these things simply on face value.
Correct.
And the next thing, which to me looks like Munir has already done, is exploit Turkey to keep India under the boil. So, despite India having helped these guys during their earthquake, the Mr. so-called Erdogan raises the Kashmir issue. So, keep India just about boiled and amused. Keep India under some kind of a tension, not enough to take any punitive action against Pakistan through third parties, through their friends. You will realize that under Bajwa, uh, Pakistan did try to restrain itself and not take advantage when we were having a kind of difficult situation with China. So somewhere I would say that keep India managed, work aggressively towards Western borders to teach a lesson to Afghan Taliban, to ensure that we made you the king and now you are not helping us out, may ensure that internal the security situation is under control. Okay, the economy, as far as the economy is concerned, it has to negotiate hard. It has to make some crunch decisions. Probably the Pakistani army may have to at least start taking out statements saying that they are going to reduce their strength, they're going to reduce their expenditures, to convince the IMF that the tranche is removed. And then finally fall back on their all weather, higher than the mountains, deeper than the sea trend ship, which is of China. So to me, friends, I think this is in nutshell what the Pakistanis are likely to do to ensure that they remain intact, at least do not break up or implode,
Will it succeed
and
is a whole other question.
and probably adopt what the Mughals did, was buy out your enemies. If you can't, if you can't fight them, buy out. And what the Chinese are doing today is that they just give them money so that their problems are
Managed.
kept at bay. So they have probably given enough money to Taliban to ensure that the ETIM does not go and create problems in Xinjiang. So it has to be a mix of all these things which we have discussed today, and I think this is what is going to be seen in the future also.
And
Some
secondly, I
aggressive,
mean,
some aggressive
very,
statements by countries like Turkey, some kind of statements by OIC against India. These are the leveraging which it has to do to
जी,
ensure that India remains a little walked up, but at the same time, do not show any aggressive intention, do not take any actions which may end up inciting India into taking some very severe measures. carry out a strategic balancing between US and China is something which possibly you will see more in the offing in the times to come. But before that, get a proxy government which will listen to Munir as soon as possible. Because in
That's what I'm saying.
the current situation, that is not seen anywhere in the horizon. It is, I find that the government is paralyzed. They don't know what to do, and army is kind of hands-off situation as of today. Let's see if Munir has any other rabbits in his bag.
Whether he'll be
I
able
think,
to pull all this stuff off is something which is a big question. So looking at
yeah,
the
I mean,
status of the society and this and that and the other, it's just
I agree. The see there are these internal issues which have happened. Radicalization has become too prevalent, but I still have this conviction that majority of the people of Pakistan are not really going to kind of take to the streets or take to radical actions other than those hardcore people who have already become radicalized, and their uh, their I in Pakistan I didn't see any of their movements that actually lasting more than 30 days, 40 days,
that is. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I say that the conviction is missing, sir.
Yes, so I feel
ज्यादा
that
गर्मी हो जाती है तो घर चले जाते हैं यार, वो प्रोटेस्ट नहीं है, बहुत गर्मी है.
that's what I'm saying. So I find that possibly Pakistan will sail through, keep taking all these measures which we are talking about, and in certain areas they're experts. The solution which I suggested, I mean, which I feel they would do, I think it will come so easy to them. The first thing which they will think is, yeah, ऐसे तो कर ही सकते हैं, we can do like this, we can play one against the other.
That is there, sir. But the big question that I want to ask is that, and then let's, guys, after this, I open this out to the questions. Like,
I
subscribe, you know,
Yeah,
that's very critical. And, let's hear it. So, the main thing that I want to ask is about the factor that in a scenario where Pakistan was ably set up, controlled, ruled, governed, kept in line by the army, a lot of stuff could be done by the army chief. Uh,
yeah.
this is for the first time in the history. Today, we are seeing that the army chief has becoming slowly an organization which is losing its relevance. I mean, I'm not saying it's not it's irrelevant now. No, it's losing its relevance amongst the grassroots, amongst even I think in with the Taliban as well, because I find them not trusting the Pakistani army to be able to actually carry out their words because of the factor that they cracks within. So there
See,
is that question which always comes to mind, ki whether the army would be able to hold this thing together or hold itself together, leave alone anything else.
you see, Pakistani army as such, to my mind, is going to hold out together. Okay, whether they are able to manage the situation around them as they did in the past is a doubt. And how do I say that there may be a doubt on that particular factor? That a, the awareness level of people have increased, right? B, it's not that easy to thrust things down the throat of people, especially
That's
the
the
younger,
problem. Yeah,
especially the younger crowd, which is younger generation which is coming up. See, I see on the YouTube videos people openly criticizing the government, criticizing the army now. And I was surprised to see that why aren't they? I mean, people are asking questions. Why aren't they taking steps to? Why aren't they? I mean, there was a YouTube video which I was listening to coming straight from Pakistan. Was Why aren't they asking help from India? India is ready to help them. Why aren't they taking the help? शाहबाज शरीफ सुनते नहीं है.
Some
शाहबाज
very
शरीफ को
colorful
सामने
language was used in that video.
शाहबाज शाह- शाहबाज सिंह- शाहबाज शरीफ जो है वो उनको, एंड देन दे शो शाहबाज शरीफ फेस एज दो ही इज द मोस्ट flogged person, flogged horse, standing in front of the media with his head drooping down, and it looks as though he's under so much of pressure that he's become dumb. I mean, he's become blank as far as policy issues are concerned, and as far as implementation of the steps which he has announced. Like he didn't have the heart to tell that Indian army, Pakistan army, you cut down your expenditure. On the contrary, after his statement, Pakistani army chief has come out with a statement: we want more money.
Hmm.
And today's statement was that they are running short of food, they are running short of supplies, they need to sustain.
This is basically a show for more money, nothing else.
Absolutely. See, the one question which I didn't discuss at all, and which is also a big challenge for Pakistan, is the energy. These guys have not used their nuclear capability for power generation. I mean, what kind of nation planning it was? Just because भुट्टो said हम सूखी रोटी खा लेंगे लेकिन nuclear bomb बनाएंगे, it is not going to last a nation for life. I mean, for in perpetuity. There were statements made by people that possibly we were better off if we were part of India. So, to me, it looks that Pakistan uh, army possibly could stabilize the ship, provided they take some hard actions against their political leadership to put them on course. Some hard actions themselves upon their own expenditures. Really work towards peace with India and Afghanistan, and balance. Unfortunately, they don't have a Jaishankar to balance China and America.
That's what I'm saying, sir. Like, peace with India, there so many variables in this, and it's something that the Pakistani army, to my mind, could pull off pretty easily. 1990s and 2000s, early 2000s, they would have done it with one hand tied behind their back. Today,
You
I
see,
mean,
you see, when you come up with a statement as a Pakistan army chief that we did not surrender 93,000, we surrendered only 33,000 or 30,000 odd people.
rest
I
will all
don't think you're I don't think you're working towards any peace here.
you're not.
You're trying to you're trying to instigate your neighbor.
Why he within the first week of him taking charge, this chap Munir, he went to
Yes.
Kashmir and said, "Jo, kya? Anybody who looks at me will burn."
Yeah, I mean,
Something like that.
he said that the policy on Kashmir will not change. It will remain as it has been in the past, and all the support will be given to our Kashmiri brothers in terms of moral, physical, whatever it was. So point is, you can't be doing double talk. Backtrack, you say something, and in front you're saying something.
Yeah, yeah,
So you're embarrassing a nation. At least keep quiet if you're doing something backtrack.
that's true, sir.
Your country is not looking for today a war. Your country is looking today for roti, kapda, or makan.
Survival. तो वो
I
नहीं है
would
ना
say
सर अकल, बिकॉज आप लग्जरी कार में गोल्फ कोर्स में यू डोंट सी द पॉवर्टी ऑन द रोड, सो
absolutely, absolutely.
दैट्स व्हाट.
The typical. So I think if there are any questions, otherwise
Yes, sir. There are a
we
few.
can.
We'll just take 10 or 10 12 minutes with some interesting questions. And guys,
Okay.
before I do, like, subscribe, and if you can, please do help out the Dev Talks efforts. The QR code is right here. You can become a member or send us a super sticker or a super chat. Thanks so much for joining in. But like is the most critical. We've got close to 200 people, and I really, really want all of us to like this video so that it reaches a larger audience. The idea of doing this video, as Janusar said, is to understand what they would do so that we could create our own thought process. Uh, let's just go here, sir. Uh, yes. With respect to the ancient map of the region, what impacted Ashoka Empire and the later in recent history that the Maratha Empire had have on this region?
See, as far as Ashoka Empire was concerned, the influence was very evident. In fact, a large following of Buddhism had started off in that particular area. The culture of the symbols of Buddhist religion were built there. Stupas of the same vintage as your Sanchi stupa were made in Afghanistan. So somewhere the population there in that particular region, especially Gandhar area, was heavily Bamia, Gandhar. These areas were heavily influenced by Buddhism. So there was a definite influence of the culture. However, uh, when Hinduism again started resurrecting itself, it started assimilating people into Hinduism. And then when the invaders came in, the Islamic invaders, when they came in, especially Mongols, and then thereafter the Arab, it was the Arab world which actually did the damage as far as Buddhist culture is concerned. Most of the people then fled away from there. Their symbols were broken. Few remained, and those were broken during Taliban time. So the cultural influence was definitely there, but conversion of the area into Islamic religion took almost 200 years, almost up to 1400 or 1400 BC, AD, till about 1400 AD. Conversion process was going on for to into Islam. The tribals were also made to convert. So there has been a, yeah.
They is asking for the book, sir, that you
Mhm.
refer to.
Okay, these are various articles which keep coming up on the net, not specifically from any book. If you surf the net, you will find people have written about Gandhar Empire. People have written separately about Mauryan Empire. There are maps. If you Google ancient maps of the region, you will find these maps coming up on your screen. That will explain to you how the people have moved around in this area. They call it as melting pot of culture. This particular region is called the roundabout of trade route, roundabout of cultures. So you will find this particular region uh, some kind of a cauldron, a hot cauldron, which is very difficult to handle. In fact, it has gone on record to say that possibly the best managed uh, empire which could manage this was Mughals, and to some extent the Mauryans, that is Ashoka and Chandragupta. Rest all have actually kept on fighting with each other.
That is, they came replaced one after the other, and their empires just kept changing. Don't you think we should make it difficult for Pakistan to get stable again? And what should we do to achieve that?
Since today's discussion was on the on what Pakistan would do to ensure that it survives, so therefore I had focused myself onto that. But if you're looking at my interest, if you're looking at the interest of India, yes, I would like Pakistan to keep chugging along, falling, getting up, falling, getting up in this format, keeping its borders intact so that we do not have an overflow of problems of this region into our area as the ideal solution. Okay. If you look at it from a long term perspective, I would say that if the region is going to remain like this for a longer period, say 40 years, 50 years in this manner, then you will find that automatically there would be some kind of merger into India. People, especially on the periphery, will start demanding uh, kind of ceding to India. There would be this kind of a movement which may take place. So let's wait for that kind of a action to happen. Then it is easier for you to manage it. Then it is
Yeah,
easier for you to manage it, because if it happens like a floodgate, then you will have problems. You know what floodgates do? They break walls, they break bunds, they break they destroy your fields.
absolutely.
So you don't want a floodgate to open. You want these guys to trickle.
Fall in your hand,
Okay.
Rams.
Yes, and so that you can check these guys who are coming to you. Don't buy the problems. Take people, uh, merge with them on your own terms.
That's
And
what I
I would
think.
and I would still maintain that west of Indus, do what the Mauryans did or do what the Mughals did.
Exactly. You and General Ryan, I think both of you have mentioned the same thing. That is the ultimate requirement, but that doesn't mean
Absolutely,
that you start pushing for it, because
absolutely.
any premature thing may just land you up in a lot of trouble.
And you must not underestimate the power of people. The people power is so strong that it can actually uh, you know throw away dynasties from its root, throw away governments from its root.
True.
That's the kind of power. You read the book of Gene Sharp. Somebody was asking for a book, how to create revolutions. Read this book of Gene Sharp.
True, sir.
Gene Sharp is the author's name. Take his book. He basically highlighted how to engineer revolutions in countries, and basically it is based on the Arab world Spring Revolution, Arab Spring Revolution.
Gene Sharp has, guys, also written a book, Gandhi the Political Strategist. If you're interested in finding out Indian history, and you'll
Correct.
have to find it somewhere, because on Amazon the book is for 36,000 bucks.
And it is the one which I am talking about is not very
Very
fat
thin.
book, very very thin book, but and easy to read. It's in a very simplistic
Yeah, yeah.
language. It does
Democracy
not
to
use
Dictatorships, right?
democracy to dictatorship, how to deal with them. So this is a
I
book
read
which
that.
you must
Yes.
this is a book which you should read. Let the people come into your lap,
Yeah,
right? Let them come at your conditions.
yeah.
Don't start calling them like, we have had problems getting the Rohingyas to us. Then they become a problem for us. Screen them. What the West is doing, it is not taking them blindly here. Every guy is screened thoroughly before he is taken in. Still they have problems, but then at least you are minimizing the chances of problem, right?
True.
Yeah,
Pakistan's relationship with Afghanistan is a classic example of the hunter becoming the hunted, or a predator becoming a prey. Just a comment, sir.
absolutely, you're right here. We have also been prey to similar activities in the past. I
Yep.
would not like to mention, all of you are aware of it, that sometimes we create a person and later on that person becomes the Frankenstein monster for you. He comes back and hits on you. He gains popularity, courtesy you, and subsequently he becomes a big issue to handle.
True.
And I'm talking of the Punjab problem, what happened initially.
Even now.
So even now also, so you will find that sometimes we create issues for personal, petty, small political gains, and ultimately that man becomes too big for you to handle, and from politics it becomes terrorism,
True.
and then we lose lives on both sides. Security forces, civilians, precious resources of the country are wasted on such things.
True. India should not help Pakistan. As Chanakya said, it's short sighted to give lifeline to an enemy when it is weak.
Absolutely, I tend to agree with this statement. My only condition is, if you help them extract something big enough that even if that fellow turns around and says that, I'm not going to listen to what you have already taken your pound of flesh, okay, lay down conditions that we will give you help on A, B, C, D conditions. It should improve your position from where you were.
I'd like to say something. So you've brought about a very interesting point, and a lot of people ask that why isn't India doing this? Why isn't India? Guys, timing is everything. Go back to
Absolutely.
your cricket analogies. Sachin Tendulkar can keep on swinging his bat, but if the
Yeah,
timing is not right, he'll get out. If the
absolutely.
timing is right, it goes for a huge six, and that's the game. You cannot do anything out of time.
Absolutely.
Today, Pakistan has come to a point where it is down, going down. Let it go down to a point where it is not able to do anything further, then you do what you need to do to get your benefit out. You cannot be in hurry in these kind of things. Correct me if
You
I'm
see,
wrong.
who are the main drivers of the situation as of today, as far as Pakistan is concerned. Just think over it. Are you the main driver? Are you the main driver? Who have the most invested in Pakistan? US and China?
Hmm.
Look at their moves. How they are going to negotiate
Slowly,
this part of the world. How are they going
slowly,
to negotiate this part of the world? Be ready to take on the situation when the time comes.
when
Based
the
on
time.
these two guys, based on these two guys, the way they are panning out their actions. Even then, what has been your position? Your position has been that it should be a consensus approach to third country. So possibly work towards getting the UN involved before you do
Yeah,
anything
yeah.
like this. What the Russians did as far as Armenia and Azerbaijan was concerned, they let these two guys fight, let them negotiate, and then quietly walked in and said that they will ensure the peace and tranquility on the border.
And they stand today there. As a matter of fact, bloody hell.
The point is, look for opportunity with minimum losses and minimum damages to you, and minimum. See, the art of fighting a war is to win the war without fighting.
Yes. Thank you, sir.
If somebody
Chanakya
else can,
always.
if somebody else can fight the war for you, by all means, go ahead and do it, provided you in the end get the pie to share. You see, so that is the art of you maneuvering into such a situation, from such a situation.
It's somebody's really Mark. Thank you so much for saying this. He says when diplomacy fails, then comes military intervention.
Absolutely, absolutely, it's the last instrument which you use.
Yes, absolutely.
Whether it was Little Heart, whether it was Clausewitz, whether it is Sun Tzu, whether it is Chanakya. What has Chanakya said? Tell me. Sham, Dam, Dand,
And
Sham, Dam, Bhed, Dand. Dand is always the end. Create differences. Create, buy them out. Dam is, money. Use the money to buy them out. And Danda is in the
danda.
end. That's the last thing. When he doesn't listen, and Chanakya adds further, if the other guy is stronger than you, don't be in a hurry to use the danda. What did Deng Xiaoping said? Hide your intentions, bide your time. When the time comes, enact your intentions, provided you have the resources and the means.
Absolutely. I have just one thing to say to what you just said, Saki. That the factor of uh, my okay. Let me rephrase what I was trying to say. That we've just started growing, sir. We have started going. Our graph has started raising up and stuff like that. And I'm going to take this saying by Deng Xiaoping. I think that That makes the most sense. Hide your strength, bide your time. I think that is the most important thing.
Abs- Absolutely. And what is your stated goal? Our stated goal is by 2047 or 2049, we should be an economy going ahead of the US. Imagine if you are ahead of the US, where will be your hard power? Where will it be? People will be cowed down in front of the hard power. As such, today, your your budget is $70 billion defense budget. His is 20 odd, 29 odd $billion. And now he can't even afford bloody that much also. This gap must keep increasing. That tomorrow he just has no other option but to say, okay, I am here, do whatever you can do, but spare me.
Mhm. तो
Then do
ये
the.
क्वेश्चन ले लेते हैं, ये क्वेश्चन ले लेते हैं,
Mhm.
because this will kind of take a lot of the sentiments which are coming in the this thing,
Yeah.
uh, which is the anger. I can understand where this is coming from, and at the end of it is our countrymen that have got lost, and there is anger. I personally have a lot of anger as well. Pakistan uses internal fault lines to create mess in India like Khalistan. Why, uh, and all? Why India does not do the same? There are so many fault lines in Pakistan like Shia, Sunni, Ahmed, the railway, and whatnot.
What's his name? Mark, huh?
Bhargav,
Huh?
Mr.
Who?
Bhargav.
Yeah, Mr. Bhargav, first of all, I understand what you're trying to say, and I understand why you are saying so. And I have my full, I would say, support as far as with you on that particular statement of yours. But the art of doing certain things like this lies in not announcing them, right? These
They're
are
not.
part of,
They're not
these are all,
Pakistan.
these are all part of gray zone war. Are you aware what all we may have done in the past? Am I
No.
aware of it? No, I am not. But statecraft is an activity which should be such that nobody should be able to point a finger at me, and yet the work should be done. Please look around. Please see what is happening around you. Things don't happen just like that.
Blue.
If somebody gets knocked off in Pakistan, it doesn't happen like that.
Yeah.
If we are going closer to Taliban, negotiating with them some commercial deals, some trade related issues, if we are giving aid to Taliban to eat and survive, why are we doing this? Tell me. And what is that? And what is now happening to Pakistan and Afghanistan
Because of that.
because of that? See, I'm just giving you pointers.
Yeah, yeah.
Do it in a manner that the world appreciates you, yet you achieve your aim. And this is called positive gray zone war. I am taking a very positive step. Unfortunately, I can't help it here.
God.
I am helping the humanity, but if the humanity starts fighting among themselves, what can I do about it? I want to send you the wheat. This guy is checking my vehicle and he's not allowing me. He says he use his own truck, etc. Why should I do that? Why should I allow him to transport the thing in his truck? It is my aid which is going. It should be announced to Afghanistan that the aid is coming from India and not in Pakistani trucks or not driven by Pakistanis. There are many such examples, by which we are doing some positive actions which have positive fallouts as far as we are concerned. Yeah, sometimes we may go wrong. Turkey may have turned court round, fine. But our aim behind Turkey was that.
To showcase that this is a bloody rascal,
Is
nothing
that,
else.
and so that, Pakistan and Turkey start falling apart,
Yep,
who are supposed to be close friends. Okay, it didn't. I mean, we tried a trick, it didn't work out, fine. We'll do something else when the opportunity comes. So we are doing it. We are doing it in our own way. We are doing it in a more sophisticated manner.
yeah,
We are doing it in a manner that the world recognizes you as a positive country,
force.
following the principles which we have already announced, which is that world is one big family. So if I give vaccines to a particular country, and at the same time there's a news which comes out that the Chinese vaccines are 50% only 50% effective, and that they are charging money, and India says we are giving vaccines free, so definitely Bangladesh has to now take a call which side it's to. So it's a game which is being played by everyone, and I think there are styles in which people play. I feel our style is more nuanced, more fine, and be rest assured, national interest will never be compromised.
Guys, sir, if I may add chota muh badi baat, but let me just say this. Whatever sir has said is if India is looking the other direction, USA is not interfering with him, and China also is not fingering around in Pakistan. It's idealistic where Pakistan will be able to just do this and pull this off. We're not going to sit quiet. I mean, that's all that needs to be said. And there are certain comments that have come out. What you
Mhm.
mentioned is the first rule of Fight Club,
Absolutely.
and this is one. And the second one says 5 million tons of wheat to the Taliban is paying.
Absolutely. I mean, you see, you got to you got to understand. Don't be absolutely short-sighted. वो हमारे अंदर इस तरह से problem कर रहा है. You do a problem through a different kind of an approach.
चलो
नाम भी
बेवकूफा पकड़ा
रखो,
जाता है.
नाम भी रखो, इज्जत भी रखो, और अपना काम भी कमा लो. Have your honor, have your pride, do your actions, and achieve your others. That's the better approach, I suppose.
Absolutely, sir. Sir, thank you so much. This is an enlightening episode. I mean, I'm not joking. It takes you from one place to the other to realize that there is such so much more to this entire game that we just don't understand. Guys, I'm sure all of you, you know, you need to think about what Sir said because it's about one realizing your enemy's game plan, and that's the first hit to an enemy in war is when you know and when you're reading his books.
Yes.
That's what the job of the Indian Armed Forces is to know what the enemy is going to do, preempt it, and then turn it around and then bring it to your game. Very very critical for us to think about that. And the last and most important thing is what Sir said in the end is do what you need to do. You don't need to beat a drum about it. The Pakistanis, to my mind, are quite bewkoofs that the entire world knows. Everyone on a YouTube, small YouTube channel, people are saying Pakistani ये करते हैं, Pakistani Khalistan कर रहे हैं, ये कर रहे हैं, वो कर रहे हैं. Has anybody around the world been able to point a finger with any evidence of anything wrong that India has done? Very, very less. One odd incident here and there, nothing more than that. And that is called clean craft. The Israelis have done so many things without the world knowing, even getting a hint about it. What we know about the Israeli operations is what the Israelis have said we've done. That's it. So
No.
the biggest thing about all this stuff is to keep quiet. And sir, thank you so much for that lesson. And looking forward
Thank you.
for many, many much more lessons. And this the last comment. इससे ज़्यादा threadbare नहीं हो सकता.
Thank you. Thank you, Pinamani. Very nice encouragement as
So
far as we are
I
concerned.
don't know, sir, if you will take this as a compliment or not, but General Hannibal Singh, आपका नाम change कर दिया है.
हनीपल सिंह.
आ जाएंगे. That's how
Thank
it is. Sir. But
thank you.
thank you so much, sir. This was brilliant. I must say, it is an eye opener
Thank you.
because Pakistan is going to try and survive at the end of it, and
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
what we need to read at. Thank you so much, guys. Before I sign off, like, subscribe, and if you can, do contribute to the Dev Talks efforts. Till next time, Jai Hind.
Jai Hind.